All right, this is going to be a really cool fly that I've been tinkering with for about a week or so. It's going to be a wally wing dun. It's kind of what we're going to see at the end of it. Really cool little fly. That inverted technique with the hook point up, that's something a little new to me. So I'm kind of excited to try that this year and see how that fishes. That seems to be, don't quote me on this, but it seems to be a bit of a European thing. A lot of the European tires that I follow, I see a lot of that there. So I don't know if they do that a little bit more over there than here, but either way, it's a cool concept, and I can get on board with that. So I'm going to give that a try this year. So in the vise, I've got a firehole 718 and a size 14, and I'm going to use some UTC 70 and fluorescent chartreuse, and I'm going to get my thread started right about there, and I'm basically measuring out the front of my fly and how much room I want to leave for the front part of it, and starting out my thread based on that. Okay. So we're going to want to build a tapered underbody here. So I went down about 1/4 of the way and then doubled back to where I started. And then I'm going to go down again about 50% of the way. But before I continue on, I'm going to stop my thread right there, and I'm going to tie in my tail material, which is going to be some of this CDL. So this is a whiting tailing pack of CDL, and it's really, really good stuff. Not only do you get a ton of fibers in one of these packs, I mean, I've had this pack for years, and I don't even think I'm 10% into it, but the modeling on the fibers are really, really cool. Awesome tailing material. So I'm just going to take this and just kind of, I grabbed some, I boasted about the modeling, and then I grabbed some fibers that barely had any character to them at all. So I'm going to go back and grab a few different ones. Yeah, these ones on the top look good. All right, this will work. I just like these to have a little character. So I'm going to take that, kind of just put it off the back of the fly until I get the length that I want, and then transfer my grip to my left hand. And I'm just going to put a pin trap on there just to get it secured. And a couple more wraps. Orient that onto the top of the shank. And get some wraps about halfway down. And let's double back to where we started. And let's see, we'll get these tips snipped off. Okay, now I use the UTC 70 because it's a flat thread, but you can kind of see how it comes off the shank there. It's getting a little twisted up. So I'm just going to give my bobbin a little counterclockwise spin. And then I'm going to continue down, building up that taper, and just hold those tail fibers straight so that they don't roll over on you. And after going about 75% of the way down, we're going to double back all the way back to where we started again. And then untwist my thread. And then proceed all the way down again, holding those tail feathers tight. Okay. Now, if the tail seems to be going down a little bit more than you would otherwise like, remember that this fly is going to be inverted, so that's not really much of a problem. That's kind of what you want, actually. It took me a little while, too, to get that through my own head, because I'm stubborn, but... All right, so next order of business is our body material, which is going to be moose mane. So moose mane patches have a number of different colors. They have blacks and browns and whites. You can put together any combination you want. You know, 2 browns and a white, a black, a brown, and a white, whatever it is that you want. I just grabbed 3 random fibers, and it looks like I have 2 browns and a white. I didn't want to waste too much time, you know, kind of fiddling with them. I just grabbed whatever I grabbed. and that's what I'm going to use. So I'm just orienting these in a way so that the white is in the middle, but it is sometimes hard to keep them that way. So we'll see if I can get this to work. So I've got the white in the middle, and all I'm going to do is snip off those tips, because the tips are very, very weak, and your fibers can snap on you. I mean, they could still snap on me, but hopefully that doesn't happen. You can soak mousse if you want before you wrap them. That will always help. I've always had pretty good luck with just straight wrapping it. Mousse is a pretty easy material, so I haven't had much trouble. So I'm just going to get those tips slipped in there, get them secured, and I'm going to take touching wraps all the way back up to the front. And I'm going to fold my fibers towards the front, take a wrap, and then just continue to take touching wraps with the mousse all the way up the hook shank. And you can see pretty quickly why this is such a cool material. You get that really cool segmented look. The mousse lays nice and flat. Really nice body material. I love working with mousse. I tie a lot of flies with mousse. I tie a lot of emergers with mousse. A lot of nymphs with mousse. It's good stuff. I got one little fiber that wants to get ahead of the pack here. Just push that back. There we go. And that'll pretty much do it. Get that tied off. Get the excess snipped off. Good. All right, so there's our body. And what you're going to want to do once you get that all cleaned up is you're going to want to secure the body. So we're going to do that with a little bit of resin. So I got some Solares Bone Dry here. So I'm just going to take that and get a layer of it on the body. You don't really want to goop it on there, because if you have too much on there, it'll take over the shape, and you'll kind of lose that shape that you work to achieve. So you just want to get a layer of it on there. And once it's on there the way you want it, just give it a zap. Yeah, that's cured up rock solid. All right, so there's our tail and our body. So let's finish this thing up with the top part of the fly. And to do that, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to secure my vise like this. Let me angle that up a little bit so it's still centered in the shot. There. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to tie in our wally wings. And wally wings actually are pretty simple. They're not difficult to do whatsoever. So I have myself a mallard feather here, and I'm just going to go down in the bottom, and I'm going to tear off all the web, all those webby fibers. Just get right rid of all that. Go a little further, get some of those short fibers out of there. So all I have now is a quill and the top of the feather. So I'm going to grip this feather right in the middle, and I'm just going to stroke a bunch of these fibers straight back. And make sure it's evened up. Yeah, this one's not cooperating. That's fine. All right, that'll look to be what I'm shooting for. So you should have something that looks like this. All of those fibers stroked back with that top part sticking up like that. So that's what you should have. The next thing you need is, I would recommend getting these loon needle replacement, tapered needles. And you'll have something that looks like that. They're the things that go on top of a thing of UV resin. Now, I ordered new ones. They're too small. So, same type of idea, just a little bit of a different applicator I'm going to use here. So what we'll do, back to our feather, you want to wet your fingers and just get the tip of this wet so that you have a nice point. And the reason why you want that is because you want to feed that point through this tube. I got a little too wet and it's wanting to stick to the sides. Let me see if I can clean that up a little bit. Okay. So get that in there until it comes out the other end. Once it starts coming out the other end, all you're going to do is pull it through. And you can see right away that we're starting to get that wally wing shape that we want. So all you do is just pull that out until you get the length of wings that you want, which that looks good right about there. And we're not even going to take this out of the tube. We're going to tie it in right from the tube. So right where it comes out, right there, that's going to be your tie-in point. So we're just going to lay that right up next to the hook, wrap my thread right around that tube, cinch it down, get a couple of loose wraps just to get it in place, and pull that out. Now if I turn this, see how it's way off center? So you just want to grab the tip and just kind of maneuver it a little bit so that it's centered. And then once it's in position, I'm just going to grip these fibers, pull on my thread, and do a couple of really tight wraps just to kind of get that cinched down and locked in where it should be. Then I can come in here and snip all that excess off. And then we'll come in, get all that tied down. And once all that's done, that should be pretty well secured. Now, a good tip for wally wings is you could split the quill right now. But if you do that, you're going to have to do some work for positioning the wings. So what I normally do is instead of doing that first, what I do is I position the wing first. So I'm going to take this and pull it back, push on that with my index finger, bring my thread in front, get a nice little thread dam in front to help hold that up. And the wings are upright. Now, the way you actually make the wings is pretty easy. So this tag part up here on top, all you're going to do is grab 2 fibers from the left side of it. You don't want to grab too many or else they'll get all over the place. Just grab 2 fibers. Get them oriented close together and just pull in opposite directions. And what you'll do is you'll split that quill. Then we're going to grab some fibers on the right side. Same thing, grab 2 fibers and pull that. Huh, I got kind of lucky. So usually the middle part of the quill, which is right here, is sticking up and you got to go in and cut that off. But that just popped out on me. So I got kind of lucky there. Now you can see on top of our wings, we've got these errant fibers kind of sticking off. So we're just going to go in and snip those off. And that is pretty much it. I'm just going to kind of squeeze my wings to kind of cup them so that they go in the direction that I want them to go. But honestly, you don't really need to do too much. Even if they're not laying exactly where you want them to lay right now, one of the next steps that we're going to do is going to kind of move them to where we want. So don't even worry about it. But next order of business is I'm going to take our hackle. And I'm just going to slide this in on the side. Get a nice firm wrap on that. Get it secured. I'm going to angle it up. Get a wrap behind it. Get some of that tip snipped off. All right, and last order of business before we just start wrapping everything is I laid down a little bit of a peacock base under the hackle on this fly. So we've got an eye here, and all I'm going to do is rip off a couple of these long fibers, and I'm going to take the very tips and just snip those off, just because those are by far the weakest point. You know, not that peacock really has much strength to it as it is, but those tips are super delicate. So you don't want them to just snap right off. I mean, this still could potentially snap off and we'll have to tie it back in. That could happen. But it will happen if you leave those tips on there like that. So I'm just going to take a few touching wraps here. I don't want that to separate. And we're just going to cover this thorax with some peacock. When you get close to the wings, what we're going to do is go between the wings with the peacock, and then go back between the wings the other direction. And that's kind of what I was saying about how these other materials will help stand those wings up. Now those wings are looking pretty good in terms of where we want them to be. So we'll get that peacock tied off. Get that secured right at the eye. Come in with our scissors, get that snipped off. And for the final step, we're going to run our hackle through. So get our hackle lined up. Get that first wrap. Now this is from a saddle, so I've been wrapping this by hand. But I'm at the point now where I'm at the end, so I'm going to take these English hackle pliers here and get that clipped on there, and that'll kind of help me with the tail end of this hackle so I don't lose my grip, even though my pliers just lost their grip. Yeah, the fibers on this saddle were very, very long, so I've been wrapping these by hand, no problem. All right. So back in the pliers. Get our first wrap started there. I don't really want that kicking back too much, so get a few wraps behind the wings. Then you get a couple of wraps in front of the wings. Just get a couple of wraps to secure that, and then we're going to angle that back. Get a couple of thread wraps in front to try to tease that butt end back towards the back of the fly. That'll hide it a little bit better when you snip it off and give you a little bit of a cleaner head. And then you're always going to have a few rogue fibers that kind of just don't want to do what you want them to do. So don't be afraid to go in and just get those snipped right off. I got a couple in the back here too that I'm not a big fan of. And that'll pretty much do it. Let's come in here with a whip finish. You can kind of see this is why I like that fluorescent chartreuse. Get that chartreuse head on there. So last order of business, we'll secure this with a little bit of resin. Give that a zap. And that'll do it. That is your wally wing done. I've been tying quite a few of these the last couple days. Let me angle that a little bit better so you don't lose it on the spin. Nah, you're going to regardless. No biggie. But yeah, really, really cool fly. You can change up the body, change up, what type of mousse you use, the color of the head, all kinds of different things. One of the coolest things about it, though, is that inverted look. I'm really excited to fish this year. I haven't fished any inverted flies. As I said in the beginning, it seems to be a European thing. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure how much we use it here. I just haven't really seen it much over here, but I'm definitely going to give it a try. If anybody's ever done that, I mean, if you have any experience with it, if you have fished these, definitely post up in the comments how you feel about it. I'm going to give this a try this year. I can definitely see the logic for it. So I'm excited about it. But either way, really, really cool fly. Tie a few of these up. Any questions or anything, just leave them right in the comments, and I'll answer them as quick as I can.